So I'm Joey from the Hearth team at Keller Williams Realty Professionals, and Lou and I are available if you or anyone you know are thinking about buying or selling a home. But I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to present our new weekly Lunch and Learn series, which we are considering calling From Our Hearth to Yours. We'll have a different topic each week, and next week will be all about knitting. If you have an idea for a future topic, message us and let us know. And make sure to like the Hearth team on Facebook so you can know the upcoming topics. We'll also highlight a charity each week, and you are encouraged to donate whatever you can. And this week we are highlighting New Avenues for Youth. Lou, you want to read off their statement?
Yeah, so New Avenues for Youth has, I'm good. New Avenues for Youth has been around for over 20 years serving the youth in our community. This is a statement from them, so it's first person. We're dedicated to the prevention and intervention of youth homelessness, and we believe in the power of youth to improve their own lives and that we must show up to support them. We've served over 20,000 youth over the years, providing access to everything from meals and counseling to education, job training, employment, and housing. We meet youth where they are and help them get where they want to go. As you can imagine, COVID-19 has heavily impacted New Avenues for Youth and the young people accessing our services. We've addressed this crisis by offering remote case management and services where possible, allocating additional staff time towards critical programs such as our drop-in day center and residential housing programs, and ensuring that we keep our doors open for the youth, for the young people we serve. Generosity from community members like you helps us respond quickly and completely to their needs. Thank you for your support.
Great, and we encourage you to donate to them. We can send you all a link. For our very first Lunch and Learn, we're pleased to present Josh Scofield, chef and owner at Pollo Bravo. You can feel free to ask questions today via the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Josh, welcome. I know Lou has some questions to get us started.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Josh, to tell everybody what hours you guys are open for to-go food during COVID-19, and maybe if you want to talk a little bit about Pollo, you're welcome to. Anything you'd like.
Sure. We are currently open 7 days a week. Fridays and Saturdays we're open noon to 9, or it's 9 at the latest. We kind of tend to try to run out of chicken, which is usually between 8 and 9. And then Sunday through Thursday, we're open 4:30 to 8:30. And yeah, you can order through Caviar or Grubhub, or you can call the restaurant and we will we'll run the food out to your car. Yeah, that's been working pretty well. Yeah, I don't know if I really have anything else about the restaurant. Do you have any other questions about that, or?
No, I think it's delicious. If you guys haven't tried it, definitely give them a shot.
Yeah, our food travels well. We've stayed pretty busy. You know, if my wife and I are there, it's just us, you know, so I'm cooking all of your food 4 nights a week, and then we have a couple staff members that work our days off. So yeah, it's been you know, all things considered, we've been managing okay. We feel fortunate that our food travels so well, so that's been good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, well, let's get started.
Okay. Yeah. So I chose this dish. This is one of the first things I learned how to cook. My mom taught me how to make chowder when I was like 10 years old, and by the time I was, you know, 11 or 12, I was making this most Wednesday nights. It was kind of our Wednesday tradition. And so it's you know, it's one that I keep coming back to. It's evolved over the years. My mom made it with like frozen potatoes O'Brien, where the potatoes, it was thickened with flour. Over the years, I took the flour out of it. I use fresh potatoes. I rely on russet potatoes to actually thicken the soup, so there's no flour involved. It's gluten free. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. The other thing I like about this dish is it's one of those dishes that.
Uh-oh. Is anybody else Is Josh frozen for everyone?
I think Josh is frozen at the moment.
Oh no. Okay,
Technical glitches on Zoom.
well, hopefully he'll come back in a moment here and we'll get him to back up a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna text him just in case he's not realizing it. Oh, there you are. I think you're muted though. Oh no.
Timeline to them. So I'm just chopping this bacon up and just into like a kind of a medium dice. It's not super important. Whatever kind of bacon you have, you can just kind of chop it up as you see fit. So this is going to go into the pan with a couple tablespoons of butter. Butter there. Okay, so that's in the pan, and I'm just gonna kind of cook this on medium low heat till it's brown. And then we're gonna go with the next ingredient, which is our onion and celery. So I'm gonna start cutting my onions into a medium dice. And those will be ready for the pan when the bacon comes out. So yeah, everything, once you get started, you know, you just kind of, you know, keep an eye on the pan, but you can be prepping the ingredients, you know, while everything's cooking. Still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many onions are you using?
I'm using, these were kind of on the smaller side, so I'm using 4. And then celery, I thought I had a bunch of celery in the fridge, and I really only had like 1 piece, which is fine. This recipe is really forgiving. If you have celery, that's fine. If you don't, it's not going to suffer greatly. Like if you had leeks would work really well in this dish. But not super important to get bogged down. I wouldn't go make a trip to the grocery store in a pandemic to get celery for this dish. I would just leave it out.
So John, how many does this serve?
What's that?
How many will this serve?
So this is kind of an industrial sized batch. It's going to make about a gallon. And this recipe is kind of based off of, this is the clams I use from Cash and Carry, like the large can. I think if you were just going to a regular grocery store, the little cans that you see at the chopped clams you get at the grocery store, you'd use about, this would be equivalent to about a dozen of those. So if you wanted to make a smaller batch, you could do like 6 of those little cans to make like a couple quarts, or you could do 3 of those little cans just to make a small batch, like a quart. But this batch, we tend to do this a lot for entertaining, or just, you know, it keeps in the fridge for, you know, 4 or 5 days. So we'll have this for lunch today, and then, you know, a couple days later, we tend to go through it before it goes bad. So.
How much bacon, someone asked in the chat?
This is 4 ounces.
And I think we posted your ingredient list. I think you had the amounts in there as well, right?
What's that?
When we posted your ingredient list, you put the amounts in there, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys want to reference that, I think it should be in the notes.
Okay, so that bacon is just about browned. And I'm gonna scoop that bacon out once it's all the way to where I want it. And then these onions will be ready for the pan. And then, you know, if you're doing a large batch like this and you're getting behind, just turn the heat off. You know, if you need a little more time to prep the next ingredient, you can turn the heat down or just turn it off all the way and then just pick up where you left off. That works fine. Okay, and just a little bit of celery here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a slotted spoon and some paper towel here, and I'm just gonna scoop out the bacon. I like to scoop it out and then add it back at the very end when I add the clams. You can also just leave it in. That's fine, but I kind of like to make things more complicated. And I like that just to kind of have it be a little more, it kind of will melt in a little bit more if you cook it along with everything else. I like it to kind of be a little bit more crisp in the finished soup. I'm just using a slotted spoon here and spooning it out. Okay, and then I'm gonna go into the pan with these onions and celery. And while these are sweating, we're gonna dice our potatoes next.
What's the name of that tool you're using?
This is a bench scraper or a dough knife. I really like this for, yeah, just moving things into the pan and also for just keeping the board clean. Okay, so that's in. I'm gonna keep the heat on like medium low. We're not trying to caramelize these onions. We're trying to just sweat them. The other thing that helps with that is salt. So we're gonna add about, I don't know, a couple teaspoons of salt just to get these to kind of release their liquid.
Hey Josh, do you have a favorite salt like kosher or anything else?
Yeah, this is Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt, which is kind of my go-to for things like this. Yeah, it has a consistent sort of flake to it, and then I'm gonna partially cover this and just let that sweat. It takes, you know, maybe 15-20 minutes. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna cut these potatoes. So these are russet potatoes that I peeled already. I like to just cut, I'm doing like maybe like a 1/2-inch dice on these. So the way I like to do that is to just cut like a 1/2-inch section like that so that this is now flat. And then I'm just gonna cut a dice on these. I'll kind of stack these up. So on the potatoes, you can also use different potatoes and you'll get a slightly different result based on how you like chowder. Russets give you kind of a medium sort of thick chowder, I'd say, because they have a little more starch than say like a Yukon Gold or a yellow potato. Yukon Golds will kind of hold their shape a little bit better, whereas these will kind of melt and thicken the soup a little bit more. You can also, I've done it before with when I had, you know, kind of a mixture of both. That actually works pretty well because the yellow potatoes kind of hold their shape a little bit more, and the russets kind of dissolve and thicken the soup, so you get kind of the best of both worlds. Today I had russets, you know, so that's what we're going with. But you can definitely, this is one of those, you know, soups that is pretty forgiving. You can, you know, you can deviate a little bit from the recipe without, you know, much consequence.
I tried to bake russets yesterday and it took like 3 hours.
Oh, really? What was your oven temperature?
Well, the first recipe I found said 300, an hour and a half, and it nowhere near cooked them. So
Yeah,
I just kept going.
I don't remember what I do. I think for baked potatoes lately, I've been doing like just on a rack in the oven, but I think I'm doing like, I want to say like 375 or 425 or something like that, a little hotter.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, 45 minutes to an hour.
Do you wrap them in foil or just?
No.
Yeah.
I think, I want to say I stab them with a fork. I think I toss them in oil and salt.
Yeah.
And then roast them that way. It's been a little while though since I've done it, but I always fall back on, if I can't remember. Serious Eats is a website I use a lot for stuff like that, just basic, you know, techniques, because they do they test a lot of different methods, so it's not just like their opinion, like here do it this way. They show you like, okay, we did it like 10 different ways, and this is what we came up with. And you can kind of make your own, you know, judgment call based on that. So I think that's probably good on the potatoes. Got one extra here, but I don't think we need it. Let's check on my pan here. Yeah, so this is sweating. Like I said, a little bit of salt helps with that. If you want to caramelize onions, you tend to go, you know, higher heat, but you also leave the salt out. If you want caramelization. If you don't want caramelization, adding salt draws moisture out and gets you more of a sweating effect, which is what we're going for here. Okay, so those are ready for the pan. And then once these are sweated, the potatoes are going to go into the pan, and we're going to open up this can and we're going to strain the liquid from this can, the clam juice, and that's going to be our broth, basically. And the potatoes are going to cook in that. We're going to reserve the clams until the very end so they don't get chewy. And maybe now would be a good time, since we have some time to kill, to do our little bonus content here, which is we're going to make escabeche, which is like a pickled jalapeno and carrot. I've been doing a lot of fermented pickles, just with different things coming out of the garden, dill pickles, green beans, jalapenos. And this is a really easy technique that I thought I'd show you really quick. So basically, I had a bag of jalapenos from the grocery store that were kind of, you know, needed to get used up. And it was way more than I would use, you know, for just, you know, just regular cooking before they went bad. So basically, if you just take a jar, whatever size jar, you know, works with the amount of vegetables that you have. And I filled this up so there's about an inch of headspace at the top. I'm going to put it on this scale, right? So in here, I've got,
Uh-oh, you're frozen again, Josh. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Well, shoot, I was hoping to hear this.
However, whatever you
Hey,
think is going to be good in there.
Josh, you were frozen.
Some Mexican oregano.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
You were frozen again. So we didn't really hear you say anything after you were going to weigh it, I think.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I just chopped all these ingredients up and put it into this container with a little bit of headspace at the top for the brine. And I'm going to put it on the scale. I'm adding some aromatic ingredients like Mexican oregano, some bay leaves, some peppercorns. You still there?
Yeah, and so in the jar you have jalapenos and carrots and like kind of just whatever veggies.
Yeah, like jalapenos, carrots, yellow onion. I'm throwing some spices in here. I'm going to turn the scale on, and I'm just going to fill this with water, just plain old tap water. So it's got a little bit of headspace at the top, and I'm going to record the weight in grams. Okay, so those are covered in water. You still there?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. And I've got about 1,400 grams of water. And I'm going to do for this, I like you can do anywhere between like 3.5 and 5% salt for fermenting. I like 5% personally. That's my preference. So I'm going to get my calculator out and figure out how much salt I need to make a 5% brine, which I believe, I mean, it's 70 grams, but
so 5% of your water content?
yeah. So yeah, that's 70 grams. So I'm going to zero out the scale again, and I'm just going to add 70 grams of salt.
And that's a
70 grams of salt.
Salt?
What'd you say, Joey?
Is that a specific pickling salt? I missed that.
You can just use kosher salt. I used to buy pickling salt for this kind of thing, and I ran out recently, and so I just tried it with kosher salt, and I did some research as well. There's really no reason not to just use kosher salt. You don't need to buy pickling salt. You don't want to use iodized salt because it has like anti-caking ingredients and kind of weird ingredients that you don't want. But kosher salt will work fine. So now I've got the water and enough salt to make a 5% brine. I'm going to put the lid on and then just shake it up to dissolve the salt in the water. And then that's it. So that's done. I'm going to leave that out on the counter for 5 to 10 days or so, and just it'll get kind of cloudy white, which is the lactobacilli, the bacteria creating acidity, which is the pickling process in action. So yeah, that's that. And you can do the same technique with green beans or pickles, obviously, to make dill pickles. And I really think, like, as opposed to pickling with vinegar, it just has a better flavor, and it's so easy too. It's whatever you have, just throw it in there, fill it with water, add enough salt to make 5% or 4, whatever percentage you decide to go with, and that's that.
Did you take the bacon out of the pan before you put the onions in?
I did.
Okay.
But you don't have to. That's optional. The next thing I'm going to add to the pan here is this is called bouquet garni. It's just some herbs and bay leaf. So this is just from the garden. I have some parsley, some thyme, and about 4 bay leaves. I'm just going to tie this up with a piece of butcher's twine. And this is another one of those kind of optional ingredients. If you don't have it, again, probably not worth the trip to the store. But you don't need to tie this up. You could just, sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll just take a couple sprigs of thyme and some bay leaves and throw them in the pan. And then at the end, the sprigs of thyme the leaves will just kind of dissolve into the soup, and you can just pick the sticks out, and that works as well. Okay, so these onions are just about soft enough. Just a couple more minutes. And then we'll go with our potatoes. So we got a little bit of time to kill. Any questions at this stage?
Yeah, if anybody has a question, you can either type it into the chat or feel free to unmute yourself for a moment and just ask. One of the things I asked Josh to maybe have was tell us some of his favorite kitchen tools to have on hand.
Yeah, so I think a scale, if you don't have one, it's probably my most used item. I do everything by weight at this point. My history as a chef, I spent a lot of time doing charcuterie, and everything is measured by weight instead of volume. And I just think it's an easier way to cook, especially if you're baking. It's easier to dump 300 grams of flour into a bowl than it is to stick a cup in there. And then, if you ask, 3 different people to measure a cup of flour, you'll get varying results, based on how they did it. Did they pack it in? Did they, spoon it in and then scrape it off? So I think the scale and I use the metric system and a scale. And it also makes everything scalable. So if you have a recipe that's in grams, you can very easily, scale that up or down based on how much you need to make. It's a lot easier than trying to figure out, how many, like trying to divide tablespoons and teaspoons and things like that. So another kitchen tool, these are all not very exciting, but my timer is a big one for me. I'm a little bit of a multitasker, so I like to have, something on the grill. I set my go-to is 4 minutes. Not much can go horribly wrong in 4 minutes. So I set a 4-minute timer, and that way if I'm checking on something or playing with the kids, the timer goes off and I remember to go check the grill or whatever I'm working on. What else? Just looking here, I like these. There's been a lot of research on nonstick coatings in pans, being PFOEs being pretty harmful. And in fact, I don't really think they should be legal for sale. So I really like these carbon steel pans. They take a little bit of work in getting them seasoned so that they are actually non-stick, but it's worth it, and I think they work just as well once you get them, kind of seasoned up to cook eggs and things like that without sticking. So those are some of my kind of go-to tools.
That's great, Josh. Hey, do you ever do any wine pairings or cocktail pairings with your meals? I'm wondering what might go well with a clam chowder.
Yeah, so I think, I would definitely think a white wine would work better. Something with some acidity. But I'm not a huge wine guy. My wife would probably be better at picking an actual wine, but I would say a white would work better than a red for this dish. So yeah, These onions are, I actually should have shown you a little bit better before I threw those in, but these onions are ready. They're soft. I was kind of, a little bit distracted, so they got a little more color on them than I was going for, but that's fine. So yeah, I'm gonna go into the pan with the potatoes at this point, and then we're gonna strain that clam juice on top of the potatoes, and that's gonna simmer the, that's what the potatoes are gonna cook in, is that clam juice. Okay.
Do you ever find any sand in those cans? Should we be careful of that?
Not in the canned clams. You do a little bit more if, sometimes if I have manila clams, or I used to actually make this recipe for Tasty and Sons. It was on their menu at night, and I would make it for them. And we used a mixture of canned clams and manila clams. And the manila clams, or any clam that you're cooking fresh from the shell, will tend to have more sand. But in the can, I don't really ever find that. So yeah, so I'm gonna bring this up to a boil, and we're just gonna simmer this for about 20 or so minutes until these potatoes are starting to kind of soften up, and they will, kind of give up some of their starch to the broth. And then we're gonna add our cream. We're gonna bring that together for about 5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna add our bacon and our clams back to the pan. And we wanna, these clams are really soft and just perfectly cooked right now. We just wanna, that's gonna be the very last thing we do, is just throw the clams in and turn the heat off. Sorry, let me, you there?
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Technical difficulties. Yeah, just hopefully we stay on here. So, all right. Any other questions?
Anybody?
I have one.
Sure.
How do you season your pans the best way?
I've done a couple of different things. If you go online, the one I did recently, which I think works pretty well, is you use flax oil. I think I have that here. Flaxseed oil. And with this technique, I think you do like a pretty hot oven, 500 degrees or so. You do a thin coating on there, and you put it in the oven for about 30 minutes, and then you just turn the oven off after about 30 minutes and just let it sit until it's completely cooled. And that forms a pretty durable coating. But yeah, I tried that. I was, went online, and because I bought some new pans. It'd been a while since I'd seasoned anything, so I tried that. I think it works pretty well, but honestly, if you just use regular vegetable oil or whatever cooking oil you use, and just kind of, do a drizzle of oil in there and heat the pan, over like medium heat until you start to see some smoking. The pan will change from, like, when you get them, they just look like bare metal, like gray steel. You'll see it start to change into that black sort of, something that looks more like this. So I think either one of those works pretty well. And if you, the other thing is, when you use these pans, you don't want to throw them in the dishwasher. That'll strip the coating away. You can use a little bit of soap and the rough side of a sponge. But you want to be a little bit gentle, and you really ideally want to, clean them right away and then dry them off, and then just do a couple drops of oil in the pan when you're done, and just kind of wipe that oil out with a paper towel, and put them back that way. That way, with the next time you're ready to use it, it's got oil that's been sitting there and kind of soaking in, and that works pretty well as well. So if you've ever seasoned a cast iron skillet, it's the same principles.
Okay.
It's just a slightly different material. I think these steel pans also come in different thicknesses. So this is a thin one. I don't know if you can really see. This is a thick version. And they each have their pros and cons. The thick version, I think, builds heat better. So it's good for if you put that on medium heat and let it preheat for a while, it's good for searing a steak. Whereas these thin pans are great for eggs or omelets. Something about the way that the heat conducts through more readily, makes it more conducive to egg cooking and things like that. This is probably in the top 3 tools that I use too. This is a thermometer. I use it all the time. And there's lots of kitchen thermometers. This one this brand is called Javelin. These used to be $100 when they first came out, because they're really accurate and fast. They give you a reading in about 2 or 3 seconds, versus one of the stick thermometers with the little meter takes quite a bit longer, and they're not very accurate. These are super accurate, and they're really fast. And now you can get them on Amazon for about $30. And this is what we use at the restaurant to temp chicken. We need to know what temperature it is really quickly, because we're busy, and we need it to be accurate. We need to make sure that it's a safe temperature for serving. So this is another highly recommend. A good thermometer. There's that technology has come a long way in the past 5 years or so. All right, so this pot is simmering here. We want a nice steady simmer, so I'd say a medium low heat once it's up to a boil. So just kind of a gentle simmer on that. I'm going to add a little bit more salt at this point, maybe another teaspoon. And probably got another 10 minutes or so on that.
So do you find that russets cook quicker? If you used a different potato, would it take longer, or how would that work?
Yeah, I think russets tend to cook pretty quickly, a little quicker than. So I usually I use either Yukon Golds or russets, or a combination of the two. And the Yukon Golds maybe take another 5 minutes or so, and they don't have a tendency. These, if you keep cooking, they'll just dissolve completely. So it's really, for this dish, I go until they start to dissolve. To get some of that thickness. The yellow potatoes won't dissolve quite as easily. So they might take another 5 minutes or so to cook. And your soup won't be quite as thick. If you like chowder that's a little thinner, the Yukon Gold would be a better choice. I kind of got a medium thickness. I really don't like the a lot of times you go out to the coast and these places use flour to thicken the soup. If we're going that route, when we rendered that bacon, before we put the onions in, you'd add some flour and kind of cook that for a little bit, and that makes the soup really thick. Sometimes when you get chowder that's you can put a spoon in it, it sticks straight up. That's been thickened with flour. I don't prefer that. It's just a little
doesn't have any flour at all.
What's that, Joey?
I said, so this recipe doesn't have any flour at all.
Not at all. No, it's gluten free.
So you're relying on the starches of the potato, basically.
Yeah, potatoes have, whatever kind of potato you're using. Russets have quite a bit more than Yukon Golds, but either one has enough to give the soup a little bit of thickness. And it, if you cook it ahead of time and cool it and reheat it, it'll be a little bit thicker. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of water to get it back to the consistency that I like it. But yeah, I like it, kind of perfectly thick, I'd say. I don't know, not too thick, not too thin.
I'm curious if you were going to make it for someone who eats seafood but not bacon, would you just do like an olive oil to start your onions, or?
I'd probably use butter. Or olive oil, or a combination. Yeah, I think it needs a good amount of fat to sweat the onions. Yeah, just to get things going. But yeah, butter I think would probably be the best choice.
You'd miss that flavor though.
I was only asking for Joey because he doesn't eat bacon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you miss too much, honestly. I think sometimes you get chowders that have too much bacon and they taste like bacon chowder and not enough like clam. So I really don't think, it's definitely not a travesty. If you want to leave bacon out, I don't think it would suffer too much.
Yeah, I've made it. Also, a drop or two of liquid smoke will bring part of that flavor back into it.
Yeah. I mean that would work as well, as long as you were didn't go crazy with it, but just try a drop at a time. You get that smoke flavor back in there without the pork.
It's funny. I love clam chowder, and I've tried it in different parts of the country. It seems to be bacon seems to be a regional thing. I find it in almost every clam chowder here in the Northwest. When I've traveled to New England or even in parts of California, and I'll ask, is there bacon in this? And sometimes they look at me funny. I think it's a regional thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I haven't done a ton of traveling on the East Coast, a little bit, but not. I've never really, been to New England. I've been to New York a few times, but never really had chowder there. But I've heard that. Yeah, I know out here we definitely it's common to use bacon, but yeah, I mean, I don't think yeah, I think different regions have their take on it. Ours tends to have bacon, but like I said in the beginning, I think one of the reasons why I like this recipe so much is it's very malleable. You can make it your own based on your dietary restrictions or just your preferences, for thickness and bacon, not bacon, all that. Another thing you see here, which I think might be a Northwest thing, is serving it with hot sauce. I'll even sometimes finish it with hot sauce, like a vinegary hot sauce, either like Crystal or Tabasco, to give it a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of acidity at the end. Sometimes I'll use lemon. I think that might be kind of a Northwest thing. I don't know if that's something that happens. I know from what I've heard in New England, they do like a spoonful of butter on the top. But I think that might be kind of a regional sort of take on it. But
yeah, they sometimes sprinkle a little bit of paprika on the top.
Yeah. So this is getting there. Probably I'll just take a potato up against the side of the pan and smash it. See how, these still have some resistance, so I'm gonna let them go probably another 5 minutes or so. Other things like, other variations. I bought whipped cream for this. If you don't have whipped cream, you can use half and half, maybe just a little bit more. So that works as well. If you only had milk, I don't know that would be ideal, but as long as you have something that has cream in it, I think it works.
So have you ever served this at any of your restaurants, or is this your personal stash of recipes?
It's a personal recipe, but when I was the charcuterie chef and the commissary chef for Toro Bravo and the Tasty and Sons and Tasty and Alder. And the chef there, John Gorham, he was my chef and boss. Really, I made this for him a couple times, and he really liked it. And so it was on the dinner menu, or actually maybe both menus at Tasty and Sons for the last couple of years, 2-3 years. They were open before they, moved across town and changed to Tasty and Daughters. I don't know why my video keeps cutting out, but I'll just keep an eye on it.
That seems to be a common theme in 2020. We're always having technical difficulties.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, this is actually, I've managed to avoid most Zoom. Yeah, I did my first one earlier this week just to check it out, and this was happening a fair amount. I don't really know why, but
yeah, I haven't seen this particular issue before. I don't know what's going on there.
it's probably my computer.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's working. It seems like you're able to turn it back on pretty easily. So that's
Yeah, and you're not losing audio, are you?
Nope.
Not recently.
Oh, good.
This video.
Now it's going out quite a bit. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Have you been a part of any of the, I don't know, I feel like there's a coalition of restaurants kind of trying to come together right now to figure out nationally how to handle all this COVID, situation.
I have not really been, involved in any way other than just, sharing articles on my social media page, about legislation that's either in the works or, that's been passed and kind of the implications for restaurants. We feel like our best bet is to putting all of our faith in the federal government to bail us out is not ideal. So we've just been trying to adapt our business model and just focus on delivery. I feel like delivery is going to be, even when we reopen, the majority of our sales for the foreseeable future. So we've just been embracing that. This is really getting bad here.
Do you want to try leaving and rejoining the meeting? I don't know if that would help.
Yeah, let me try that.
Sure.
Well, I know you can at least order online from Pollo Bravo right now, which is a good thing. I like to support the local businesses when I can.
Definitely. Their food is super good.
So while he's rejoining, I have a poll that I'm going to send out right now. 3 short questions. I hope you'll all take a moment to answer these questions.
Did you send it? I didn't see it come through.
I sent it. I've got a few votes in.
Oh, okay. Maybe. It probably didn't go to me because I'm the host.
Aha. The benefits of being a host. You don't have to take your own poll. All right. Looks like he's back. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thanks, everyone. Oh, I think he's muted. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Whoop.
How's that?
There we go. All right.
Okay, that's my phone. Maybe that'll work better.
Awesome.
All right. All right. So I'm gonna try a potato here.
Oh, it's much clearer now.
Yeah.
You're a handsome guy, Josh.
Oh, good.
Your phone works great.
Perfect. All right, so yeah, so we're just about there with these potatoes. You can see, if I can show you this pan. You see that?
Now we can, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so you can see it's kind of got some thickness to it. It's starting to, the starch is starting to kind of thicken the broth. So at this point, I'm going to add my cream. And I'm not going to use, this is a quart of 30% cream. I'm not going to probably use all of it. Might use like 2 or 3 cups.
And you're adding the cream when you feel like the potatoes are kind of where you want them to be. They smash easily.
Yeah, they smash easily, and you can see them kind of like the edges kind of become rounded instead of like, you know, sharp squares. You can kind of see them kind of start to break down a little bit. And then I'm just gonna bring this back to a simmer. I'm gonna simmer this for about 5 minutes or so. I'm gonna taste it, see if it needs any salt or anything, and then I'm gonna add my bacon and my clams, and that's it. That's done.
Cool. Would you actually let it sit for a while before you ate it, or would you just serve it right away?
That would be ideal, you know. I mean, you can serve it right away, but if I make this for my family a lot, like when my parents, my sisters and stuff, and it's kind of nice to just have it on the stove. Maybe, you know, if I need to just turn it on really low heat to bring it back up to serving temperature. Once you add the clams, ideally you don't want to bring it to a hard boil again if you can avoid it. But, you know, it's also not the end of the world, you know, but it makes the clams a little bit chewier. So if I'm reheating it, I like to, you can reheat it in the microwave for just like 1 bowl, or I usually do it on the stove, just on really, really low heat, and just, you know, give it a stir every 5-10 minutes or so till it's hot.
Do you use any pepper?
Yeah, actually, I would use pepper, and I would use that towards the end. So now would be a good time. So this has kind of come back to a simmer. Like I said, we're just gonna kind of simmer this for about 5 minutes to kind of bring things together a little bit, and then I would give it a final seasoning with salt and pepper, and that would just be to taste. And keeping in mind, I already added salt a couple of times already. I like to, without being too aggressive to where you end up with an over-seasoned soup at the end, I like to add salt in stages. So you add it to the onions, which helps them sweat and also gives them some seasoning. And then I add a little bit more when I put the clam juice in. That way the potatoes are cooking in a seasoned liquid. I think kind of makes them taste a little better. And then at the very end, you know, is when I'll add the final amount of salt. And I think as long as you're careful, you know, use just like a teaspoon at a time. You don't want to be too aggressive and end up with something that's salty at the end. But I think it's good. And this is kind of my philosophy with most things like this that I cook, soups and stuff, is it's easier and better to add salt in stages throughout cooking than all at the very end. To add enough salt to this at the end it's a lot. It's a couple, a tablespoon, a couple tablespoons. So I like to kind of break it up, and it's easier if you're adding salt all at the end to overdo it, because it takes a while for it to dissolve and incorporate. So it's easier to kind of be in a hurry and tasting and adding and tasting, and then all the salt dissolves and you've got an over seasoned soup. So that's how I like to do it. All right, so this has been simmering for a few minutes here. I'm gonna remove that bouquet garni, the parsley, bay leaf, and thyme, and just discard that at this point. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so these have given up their flavor to the soup. They give it kind of that, you know, I don't know, I just, bay leaf and thyme and parsley just kind of just works really well with this type of seafood dish, to give it that kind of aromatic profile. Black pepper is also going to go well. We're going to add that next. All right, so I'm going to add some pepper. Probably a teaspoon or so. I'm going to taste this for salt. I'm going to add probably another teaspoon or so of salt.
Looks really good. I wish I'd been following along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been taking notes as we go. I'll share my notes with you.
Yeah, I was gonna watch later again and just and write down notes, but this time I just kind of wanted to be present. But it looks amazing.
All right, so that I think is well seasoned. So I'm going to turn the heat off and add the clams. Maybe a little bit of clam juice in the bottom there. I'm going to add that. And the bacon. And just stir that up. And then I think ideally, if you're not in a hurry, if you just let this sit on your stove for 15, 20 minutes, just to come down to a better serving temperature, and just let all the flavors kind of marry together. That's ideal. You can garnish this with, you know, a little bit of fresh parsley or a little bit of fresh thyme. I don't normally bother, but that's definitely an option. Sometimes I'll add, like I said, I like to add a little bit of hot sauce, which I think I have some here. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know where that is, but yeah, I like to add a little bit of like crystal hot sauce or sometimes a little bit of lemon. But just a little bit of acidity I think is nice in there. But that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Can we see it?
Yeah. So let me grab a ladle. So can you see that? Is that
Not quite inside the, we can't quite see. You could just, yeah, take us with you.
okay? Yeah, here, let's just do this.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
yummy.
That's good.
That's got some good thickness to it. It's nice and creamy. You can see the potatoes kind of have rounded edges there, where they've kind of started to dissolve. If you like a thicker soup too, one thing you can do, and I used to do this all the time, I kind of stopped doing it, is you can take a couple spoonfuls and just put it in the blender, and that'll really get the starch going. And so if you like a thicker soup, I would recommend that. But yeah, let's I'm gonna put this in a bowl. So let's see here. That's not really look too appetizing, does it?
It's beautiful.
There we go. There it
There
is.
we go. That's the money shot.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Looks great.
My mouth is watering.
Seriously.
Gosh. Yay!
Yay, thank you so much
Alright.
for doing that, Josh. We really appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thanks for the invite. It was fun.
Awesome. And I hope everybody can donate to New Avenues and go
Yeah,
get some to-go food from Pollo Bravo.
that's right. Order from Pollo Bravo. Donate to New Avenues for Youth. Like the Hearth team on Facebook and give us a call if you have any questions about real estate. Josh, we are so happy to have had you. Thank you so much for taking the time to doing this.
It was fun.
Awesome.
I appreciate all of our attendees for joining us as well.
Yeah,
We're
thanks so much, guys.
of this video soon.
Yeah, we'll post it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next week we'll be doing all about knitting, so join us again next week. Josh, thanks so much again.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Everyone.